About 40,000 Berkshire Hathaway shareholders are expected to arrive here at the CHI Health Center in Omaha in just a few hours. Tomorrow, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger are participating in several hours, about 5 hours of Q&A ahead of the formal annual shareholders meeting. And joining us right now to talk about everything that's happening is Rafter CEO and Berkshire Hathaway lead director Sue Decker. Sue, good to see you.
Great to see you, Becky.
Okay, let's talk about the issues that are out here, some of the serious issues. ESG has been a huge issue for lots of pension funds and others who have been involved in kind of pushing many different companies to disclose about more climate change. There have been several items added to the proxy where people are going to be voting, shareholders are going to be voting this quarter, including one from CalPERS that says it's going to be voting against Berkshire directors for failing to address climate risk. This has been a huge issue for the last several years. As lead director, what do you say back to shareholders and others who have raised issues with this because Berkshire's so decentralized?
Yeah, it's a tough issue because actually I think Berkshire is on the right side of this debate and has been a leading company in terms of disclosing information about the subsidiaries that do consume the largest carbon footprint. Mm-hmm. So Burlington Northern and Berkshire Energy are 90% of Berkshire's energy consumption, and we have put out very specific goals for reduction that are industry leading in each of their areas. So the hard part, of course, is exactly what you raised, is that the philosophy of Berkshire is to push decision-making down to the individual businesses who are making the right decisions, but to roll this all up at a corporate level, given how few other companies are involved in real greenhouse emissions, is very costly. I think in the end, what everyone would like is for clear rules to come out of the SEC on what should be disclosed and to be applied uniformly and consistently. And I think that probably will happen in the next 2 years.
I mean, you all have had conversations, I assume, with CalPERS and some of the others who have brought these issues. What's their point when they come back out? You don't fill the forms out the way we like them filled out?
I think there's just sort of a checklist that happens, that people are looking for certain and specific guidance. And this is part of the problem, is that different organizations are using different recommendations. And so the companies don't have a uniform way to apply these principles. So I actually am really proud of the disclosures that Berkshire makes, but they're at the subsidiary level rather than the corporate level.
Explain your job as lead director. Warren Buffett probably has more autonomy than any other CEO in the country at this point. He's done things his own way, and he's done it for a very long time. But as lead director, what are the things that you guys on the board are kind of talking about that you're looking at in terms of doing things differently?
I don't think that being lead director changes the conversation. It's really just good governance to have a party that's is a lead director when you have the chair and the CEO as the same person. It makes sense to have somebody organize the thoughts and have a confidential forum for directors if they would like it. But the issues are the issues that are always present, which is succession, what will happen in generations ahead with Berkshire. Risk management is really the job of Warren, but the board as well gets updated on that and tries to make sure that we're doing the right things.
Let's talk a little bit about Rafter, your company. Social media, and in terms of working as private social media networks for colleges and other people who are involved in this. There have been so many questions on AI and how that's going to potentially change things. And we saw what happened with Chegg, which is different than what you guys are doing. They are doing something where they were selling subscription services to students to try and help with homework and going things along. But as somebody who understands technology so well, as somebody who understands social media so well, what do you see with AI in terms of its usefulness and in terms of the risks that it might bring?
Well, I'm very enthusiastic about the potential for AI. I mean, you can imagine some of the big societal problems that we're dealing with, including climate risk that we were just talking about, that could be, where we could learn at the scale that AI computation could help us. I mean, there's so many big societal problems that it could solve. But to your point, for something that big, you have to think about some of the unintended consequences. And clearly, there have been issues raised about jobs. The other side of that is there could be enormous productivity gains, but there could be some serious job losses. There's also the potential for misinformation, the same kinds of misinformation that we've been grappling with social media in the past 10 years, but an order of magnitude more. So there are some downsides, and I'm in favor of regulation. I think I think almost everyone wishes that what we know now about the mental health crisis in the country and some of the downsides of of the large technology companies and how they operate, especially with advertising models that really incent companies to drive attention and, at its worst, addiction. I think we wish that there were more guardrails today on how content is both created and distributed. So I think there's some ideas out there, but I'm hoping that we get in front of it this time rather than reacting.
Are you in agreement with Elon Musk, who says that we should have a cooling off period for 6 months while we can figure out some rules all around it, or no?
I don't think that's very realistic. I think that right now there's an arms race going on with companies trying to advance the technology, countries trying to advance the technology. I don't think a pause makes sense. I do think, though, that coming up with some accountability for the companies makes sense. A couple of ideas are, one, we understand a little bit about how generative AI is working in terms of digitizing the query and tokenizing it and running it through transformers that have been trained on the web. But no one really understands, including the companies, why a specific result has come out from a specific query. So you could ask companies, just like you have audited numbers and financial statements, to come up with some way to reverse engineer and show how they're coming up with these results. That would slow things down, and I think it would actually add a lot of accountability. And there's no incentive to do that. Right now they want to move forward, not backwards.
Right.
I also think that business models, one of the biggest problems we've seen in mental health is related to the addiction of social media, which really relies on an advertising model. So what if you did some sort of carve out of Section 230 for AI that they can't, they're not protected in that way, so that they pursue subscription models rather than more of an advertising model that's going to try to drive consumption. So,
and that's what you do at Rafter.
Yes, that's exactly the problem we're solving, is that a lot of the social media companies are getting increasingly worrisome to both administrations at universities, membership markets, advocacy organizations, unions, because they become toxic and have a lot of misinformation. So we really drive private social communities, and we've seen like 20x increase in consumers coming to Rafter communities in the last year because there's such demand for a protected, safe way to have a conversation.
Okay. Sue Decker is the CEO of Rafter, also the lead director at Berkshire Hathaway, and we thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, Becky. Great to be here.
You too. Andrew, back over to you.